All right, we're rolling.
Good evening, everyone, or good morning, whatever time it is that you're watching this. It's the NBOA Varsity Clinic number 4. Myself, Quinn Morris, joined by Greg Deverson again. Greg, thanks so much for taking the time to do this with us. And I think this is our first time with Ernest, and everybody, you're in for a treat because Ernest is exceptional, both as an official and as with Greg and Quinn, a great instructor, presenter, but he's also an outstanding official. And what I've learned is, even though he's a New York guy, he's a pretty good guy. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to talk about freedom of movement. Ernest, thank you, by the way, for doing this. We really appreciate it.
I
Clip
appreciate you having
one.
me on, man.
Clip one, Quinn, talk about, give a little rules thing here before we get into the clip too much.
Sure. So we're going to be looking at freedom of movement and screening today, but these are all subsets of a foul, right? Ultimately, these are plays, judgments where we're determining whether or not to call a foul. Important to remember that not all contact is a foul, but a personal foul is a player foul which involves illegal contact with an opponent while the ball is live, which hinders an opponent from performing normal defensive and offensive movements. Contact which does not hinder the opponent from participating in normal defensive or offensive movements should be considered incidental. So again, we're going to be talking a lot more about specific rules about screening, but again, the same principles of, if we're going to call an illegal screen, that's a foul. So the same definition of a foul still applies. And we'll see some clips later on, where we'll say, well, maybe that was incidental contact and we could have passed. I think this first play is an example of not incidental contact, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. So
Yeah,
let's.
we'll let Greg decide that.
So we've got a play here that it's kind of an open court, right? And there are sometimes 50-50 plays with two players going after a ball. And then you have plays where one person is going after a ball and the other person takes that person out. And this play is an example of the latter. This is an obvious foul. And you'll get pushback from coaches who, they might not want you to call a foul because, hey, the ball ends up in White's hands anyway. Like, it really doesn't have an impact on the play. This one, like we talked about in the last clinic video, there are some plays that just get gifted to you. This is that play. This is an easy one for you to get. It's early. It's the first quarter. This can easily set the tone. If you call a foul, no one is going to say a word. If you don't call the foul here, now you have some explaining to do. Something that I want you all to take note of, SQBR, excuse me, speed, quickness, balance, and rhythm. If any of those four get affected, you could probably call a foul. Here, all four of them were affected. You definitely have to call a foul. I don't want to spend too much time on whether or not this was a foul, but this is a foul.
That's well put. Ernest, what about the coverage on this play?
So remember, when we're in transition, slot has responsibility, everyone, from free throw line to free throw line and transition, right? So I know there are times, right, where whether we're in slot, whether we're in trail, whether in lead, right? I mean, listen, if we can't get to the baseline and beat the players down the floor, it's okay to pull up to get yourself in position to see the contact, right? So if the lead doesn't feel like he can get there and he wants to pull up to be able to see through this contact, he definitely can, right? If slot can get down, right? Because again, we have responsibility as slide and transition plays, right? Free throw line or free throw line. He could come across and pull the trigger on this foul, right? Also, if trail is coming down, right? And trail is hustling to get in position. This is enough, to Greg's point. This is not one of these 50-50 gray area plays. If you look at it, I mean, Black just keeps going and runs wide over, right? So where trail is, he can come with a late whistle, right? Where lead is, right? He's wide enough to where he can see that. Slack can come across. So I want us to understand your positioning, right? Making sure you get to the right spot on the floor. Any of the three officials on this transition play could have helped out. Again, it's early, 3:30 left in the first quarter. I mean, we need to have a foul here. This is not a gray area 50-50 play. Black just keeps going, runs over white, knocks him to the floor. We need to have a whistle here for sure.
And to Ernest's
We all
point,
three agree that just because White was able to continue to get or regain possession of the ball is irrelevant to whether or not a foul should be called on this play, right?
irrelevant.
Correct.
Okay.
Irrelevant. And one thing, Chuck, if you don't mind, that I'd like to point out, and this is also getting into your mechanics and your coverage. When we're in transition and we're talking about, okay, whose play is this? Who can come out and get it? Understand when you're in transition and there's a play that happens in open court and you are at the center position, you have license to cover plays from free throw line extended to free throw line extended.
All the
Okay.
way across the floor, right?
All the way across the floor, sideline to sideline, because you have this could be a particular play where if you ask your partner, hey, why didn't you have a play? Well, I'm looking at Black's back. I don't know if he actually goes into him. Or and the lead referee is like, well, I don't know. He's coming at me. I don't really know if it's a foul. From the center referee, that angle that you have on that play, it's clear as day that you have White essentially slow down or stop, and then Black come from behind and knock him over. So free throw line to free throw line, sideline to sideline, in transition, you have license to fire.
One last point on this play is Greg said if you call a foul, nobody's going to say anything. Well, the commentator did. The commentator said, "Oh, the dribbler's a little out of control." Okay, please, everybody on my staff that referees for me, please, if you're gonna explain to the coach why this is a no call, please don't tell him it's because his player was out of control. First of all, if you're waiting for a player to get under control in a high school basketball game, you might only call 3 or 4 fouls the whole night. But there's no rule in basketball that says if a player's out of control, that he's entitled to get wiped out. Nowhere in the rule book does it say that. This is a foul. It needed to be called. We just missed it. But don't ever tell a player, "Oh, your player was out of control, therefore I'm not bailing him out." That might be your thought process on certain plays, but not this one. And don't say it, even when it maybe is actually accurate. Don't ever say it, please. All right, next.
And the coach might say, "Hey, Chuck, he was way out of control." Well, the contact caused him to go to the ground.
There you go. All right, next clip, please, Quinn.
So we'll talk first about the actual contact, and then we'll go back and talk about positioning and the inbound itself.
All right. So Quinn, you've got a little rules dissertation here that you can give us before we get too far into the clip. You're muted, Quinn.
Yep, got it. Thanks.
I'm here to help.
I appreciate it.
I got my camera working. What the hell else you want?
So this play we're going to be looking at is a screening play. So a screen is a legal action by a player who, while touching the playing court without causing contact, delays or prevents an opponent from reaching a desired position. There are two important aspects to this. So the first is that the player setting the screen must be entirely on the court. Okay, that's number one. They can't be out of bounds, for example. And two, as with all common fouls, there's got to be contact, non-incidental contact, in order for there to be a foul. However, for a screen, it could be minimal contact that rises to the level of non-incidental contact. To establish a legal screening position, the screener can face any direction. Time and distance are relevant. The screener shall be stationary except when both the screener and the opponent are moving in the same path and direction. The screener shall stay within his or her vertical plane with a stance approximately shoulder width apart. So that's there's a whole bunch of pieces to that. I think we're going to see plays as we go that sort of illustrate different little pieces of all of that. Okay. So with all that sort of rule stuff in mind, we'll play it through. Greg's going to talk about the contact that we have on this play.
So we saw it once. Yeah, Quinn, if we could just back it up and run it through in slow-mo, perhaps. We have to understand, and I'll get to the positioning, how we get this play right in a little bit, but understanding what it means to be within your frame in a basketball stance, because we know we're not refereeing just random trees standing in space. You can have an athletic stance just like you have in verticality plays, but on this play specifically, we have a screener whose feet are outside of his frame. You could also say it's the point guard's fault in a way for not waiting for the screen to get there, but you have a screener who is way outside of his frame. And where's the contact? The contact's on his leg. And so let's say the contact happens right in his chest. You have some justification to not calling anything. Okay. But here you have a defender who tries to go around the screener and can't because he gets his legs taken out because the screener is outside of his frame. And so if we're thinking about shoulder width apart, maybe a little bit outside of shoulder width apart, half an inch to an inch, where it's a little bit more of an athletic stance, cool. This one, he's 2, 3, 4 feet or steps outside of where his frame would be. And so we have illegal contact to the leg that should have been called an illegal screen. Now, how do we get this play right? And again, even though all of our calls have different topics, so today we're talking about freedom of movement and screening, positioning, coverage, that doesn't stop. And so from the beginning, if we have a trail referee who, if it's me, I'm standing probably in between like the two lines of the F. So I'm moving closer to the inbounder. Why? There is no competitive matchup happening in the backcourt. I'm standing where Quinn is moving his mouse. That way, when we start moving later into the play, if you can hit play for me, Quinn, I can be in a better position because it's going to force me to move closer to the baseline. Now, what do I mean by that? Our initial dependable position at trail is the 28-foot line. If we get to where the 28-foot line is, or even a step in front of the 28-foot line, so keep it rolling, stop right here. If we are where that mouse is, I'm going to be able to have a much better look at whether or not this screener is legal. And if I'm refereeing what I'm supposed to be refereeing, which I already know in this play, the offensive player is going to go right back to midcourt. I have my eyes on the screener. I can better identify that, hey, this screener is way too wide. So as soon as there's contact and you see context clues, defender's legs start swinging behind him, illegal screen.
Anything else on that play, Greg, from you?
From the contact specifically, no. I do want to address kind of where our eyes are, where we're looking on the actual throw in itself. And so
We'll get to that in hold on just a second, Greg, and you and I will talk about that in just a second. Ernest, I'm not real crazy about how the lead I don't think the lead is in a very good help position here. And probably should have been, but what's your take on that?
So remember, a lot of time screening action is a two-person referee play. So if you look at where the lead is, okay, keep going, right? So where the lead is, he's wide, good starting position. But if you think about it, he really doesn't have any action when the illegal screen action happens. So keep rolling, right? You run it a little bit for me, Quinn, so I can.
Yep.
All right. So now, pause it. So look, if you look at where lead is, he's looking. This is what we call, you hear the term, we're refereeing a space or an area, right? He's just taught, I'm at lead, I'm wide, I'm mirroring the ball. I'm just refereeing space right now, though. So like what Greg was talking about being in a dependable position, right? So Trail has this action. Lead, I know at times for us, we feel like, that's a little too far for us to come get. But I promise you, if Lee just turns, these two players in the corner are now irrelevant. They're not doing anything, right? Slot on the opposite end, if you look, Slot on the opposite end, he has another screen action coming his way, so he's refereeing this off ball. So the only person that can help on this play, based on his position, is Lee. Do not think that at lead you cannot come and pick up this illegal screen action, because you absolutely 100% can, right? If Trail, for whatever reason, doesn't get this because he still got the primary matchup and he doesn't feel like it. And then you have Lead who now can focus his attention on this matchup. He wants to come. Lead can absolutely come and get this play from where he is and go illegal screen. So I would like to lead. We call stay engaged, get active, right? Be in a dependable position for sure to help out the trail here on this illegal screen.
Very
Yeah,
good.
if you don't mind me adding, Chuck,
No,
and I know, Ernest kind of touched it with like, well, center has something that he's refereeing. Okay, so imagine in a world where he doesn't have that matchup in the corner, how we would cover this play. We know it's a 2-referee play. We got 2 matchups there. The trail referee would take the screener and then take the defender, the first defender, and then the screener, the slot referee on the other side would pick up the new defender, that's help defender, and then the new ball handler. So that's how we would kind of cover that play if we're talking about a 2-referee play with slot and trail. But because slot has that matchup that he's refereeing in the corner, lead has to extend his coverage. And so how does that turn into a coverage play with lead? Now you have lead who's covering the players who are closest to him, and then trails covering the players who are closest to them. So you'd have again, same situation. So lead can pick up the screener and pick up the other defender. And then now you have the trail referee who's going to cover the backside defender and then the offensive player with the ball. That's how you would cover that play from trail or from lead, excuse me.
very good. Now, if we go back to the throw-in itself, Greg and Ernest and you had to listen to me rant about following the ball and following the fly of the ball and all this during our rehearsal. So I want to talk about coverage on this throw-in play, Greg, in particular, keeping in mind that the trail has primary responsibility for the player, for the matchup. This is a matchup. And I said at the last clinic, and I'll say it, a million more times probably, throw-in plays I consider to be transition plays. And that's important because how you referee a transition play is different than how you referee a 5-on-5 in the front court play, right? So there's a matchup here, Quinn, and the matchup is on this throw-in is the player throwing the ball in and the opponent who's guarding him. That's a primary competitive matchup. And it's the only matchup the trail has that's a competitive matchup in his primary, right? So go ahead, Greg, if you want to pick up on this and, kind of follow my rant, but also how we're going to referee this play once the ball is released on the throw-in.
Sure. And I'll just start with the personal anecdote with what can happen when we don't keep our eyes where they're supposed to be. I had a game where a player didn't think I was looking at him. And players are smart, okay? They, a lot of them focus on basketball, but they try to find ways to get a competitive edge. And one way they'll do that is they'll see and they'll look to see if you're looking at them. So I had a player who looks at my partner. Obviously, my partner's not looking at him. He turns around and smacks the other player in the chin. Obviously, I saw it, so I called it. But what I want to point out and how that relates to this is as soon as the ball gets thrown in bounds, the trail's head goes to a very non-competitive matchup. This is a player that's by himself in the backcourt. And so how we should cover this play, to Chuck's point about it being a transition play, ball gets thrown in, I'm not leaving that matchup because that's what's going to hurt me. And in the event that I do leave that matchup, now we have to make sure that slot recognizes that, hey, my partner is not refereeing that play. My eyes have to get there. There's no sense of urgency from this ball handler. So there's not a lot that we're going to have to worry about that's in the front court right now. What's really going to hurt us in this situation is number 11, who's on defense, and the inbounder. We don't know in isolation, sure, nothing might happen, but we don't know the history between these two players. We don't know what happened earlier in the game. And if we take our eyes off of this matchup, that's where we're going to get ourselves in trouble. And so referee might tell themselves, hey, well, I need to make sure that the clock starts because, the clock needs to run as soon as the ball is touched in bounds and it's legally touched. Sure, I get that. Scorekeeper, contrary to belief, they're not looking at your hand. They're watching the game. They're probably going to start the clock on time. Okay. And even if they don't, that second or two for me is worth it if I were to make sure I pick up a foul that happens here. But if I am so focused on just watching the ball every time it gets thrown, you're building a very poor habit that you can go a season, you can go 5 years without it biting you in the butt. But when it bites you in the butt, it's going to bite really hard and you're going to get yourself in a really, really sticky situation. So start building good habits on plays like this because there's not much going on.
Good.
I don't know if you have
And
anything else you want to add to that.
only that, nothing, it ends up that nothing happens on this play between those two players. It ends up that way. But if you get in the habit of not following the flight of the ball on a pass or for a shot, and instead referee your matchups all the way from beginning to end, you will avoid having happened having happened to you what you're going to see happen on some clips later on in this clinic presentation where stuff does happen that's not good. So we can move on to the fourth clip, the third clip now, Quinn, if you don't mind. And this is staying within your, the vertical plane with your stance approximately shoulder width apart. Does he or does he not? That's the rule, Greg, that we're looking at.
Gotcha.
So it's your play, Greg.
Yep, run it back for one time, Quinn, and then I'll talk while it's going on. And so, okay, in the context of the rule, understanding whether or not this is legal versus illegal, is this screener within his frame? My answer would be yes. He is within his frame. He gives the player time and distance to avoid contact. But what I want to make sure we recognize is just because you are within your frame doesn't necessarily make it a legal screen if you deliver a blow. And so the contact that happens on this screen isn't in the screener's chest. If it was, it would be a beautiful screen. It would be perfect. Screener recognizes, hey, I gave this defender too much space to kind of avoid the contact. I have to do something to kind of slow him down. And what does the screener do? He delivers a blow with his shoulder. So as soon as you recognize and you see that that screener delivers a blow, that's when it becomes illegal. So is he within his frame? Yeah, it's an athletic stance. He's not, his legs aren't too wide. It looks good until he decides to lower his shoulder essentially and deliver a blow to the defender. The head nod is just a, little bit of acting, sure, but what happens on the play? Does the screener accomplish what he wanted to do? He wanted to either stop that defender or slow him down. And he did both of those things by delivering a blow with his shoulder. That's what makes this play an illegal screen.
Very good. Ernest, you gave the trail official some props, I think, on this play because he stayed engaged in the play. Is this the play where he kind of stays engaged with it?
This is one of the one. It's a different play, but I like how the trail doesn't bail out and continues to follow, right? But it's definitely a couple of clips later on where you see
Okay.
he continues to take a step. So yeah, we'll get to that one for sure.
Okay, good. Quinn, I've got a quick question for Travis Robinson, and then we'll get to the next clip. And the question is, A1 and A2 set a double screen near the end line. A3 intentionally goes out of bounds outside the end line to have the defender, B3, detained by the double screen. A3 receives a pass from A4 as soon as A3 re-enters the court. What is the correct ruling? All right, clip 4, Quinn. Oh, gosh, you got me on the big picture there. I look pretty bad.
Clip
Sorry, I
4,
had
we
to-
just
I had to
zoom in on
reset.
Chuck's face. That's what we're going to
All right, here we go. Sorry.
You've got a little rules conversation for Greg before he gets started on this clip, and for Ernest before they get started on this clip, Quinn.
Sorry, I'm trying to get to the right spot here. Is this the right clip?
I don't know if it's the fourth one. It is.
Yeah, this is the right clip. And if it wasn't,
Okay.
we'll roll with it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we want to talk a little bit about screening a stationary opponent. So when you're screening a stationary opponent from behind, outside the visual field, The screener must allow the opponent one normal step backward without contact. When screening a moving opponent, the screener must allow the opponent time and distance to avoid contact. The speed of the player to be screened will determine where the screener may take his or her stationary position, and the position will vary and may be one or two normal steps or strides from the opponent.
Very good. Greg, let's take a look at this screen in the context of all that meat that Quinn just gave us.
Sure thing.
Back through.
Okay, it's going to happen on the elbow on the bottom of the screen. Got two guys on the ground. Okay, if you are not refereeing how you were supposed to, you're going to have no idea how that happened. And so, in the context of a rule, do we have a moving opponent or a stationary opponent? This is a moving opponent. So what does that mean? You have to give him a step. Can you see him? No, it's a blind screen. You can't see him. So you have to at least give him a step. And it really depends on how fast that player is moving. And so sometimes it could be two steps, depending on how fast they're sprinting. But for this play specifically, we have a blind screen. So we know he's got to give him time and distance, got to give him space. In this play, he does not give him space or time. So he doesn't give him a step. We have the grounds to call an illegal screen here. Now, what we don't do is we don't call an illegal screen. So now we have another illegal act that happens that we don't call. So if you're not going to call it illegal screen, let's say you're like, hey, he gave him a step. Fine. White pulls black to the ground. That's another foul. So if you're not going to call the illegal screen, which, okay, cool. He gave him a step. He wasn't running very fast. Screen is fine. All right. Well, we're just going to ignore the fact that white pulls black to the ground. And so now we have two NCIs, no call incorrects, that had we been doing our job, and I think Ernest is going to talk about this in a minute, we would have got at least one of them correct. But here, again, to Chuck's point with the screen, we have a moving opponent. We have a screener that's behind a moving opponent. So now we have a blind screen. The screener should have given that opponent at least a step, an athletic step, to stop and or change direction, and he did not do that here. So you would have grounds for an illegal screen. And if you don't call the illegal screen, you gotta call the pull to the ground, because now we got two guys on the ground and everybody's upset with you. So I'd rather at least have 50% of people be upset with me than 100%. So
very good. Ernest, knowing the rules is only half the battle, right?
That's right. That's 100% right.
What's the other? Let's assume these officials know the rules. So where do we go wrong here, Ernest?
So I believe, so looking at this play, right? Just looking at this play, we have to have better eye discipline. And what I mean by that is, if I'm the trail, if you look at where the ball is opposite side and I'm the trail, even the slot can see there's no competitive matchup. So if you look right now where the video is paused, the trail is fixated on the ball. Okay. So a lot of times we get ourselves in trouble because we ball watch. All right. And it's exactly what happens. And because if I'm trail, I put myself in trail shoes, slot doesn't have a competitive matchup. I got 8 people at least on the opposite lane line coming towards me right on my end, right? So he are 7, right? So I know, right? And I take a peek to the corner. I see black as an open shooter. So in my head, basketball terminology, how else is he going to get this pass? There's going to be some type of screening action. So I need to not be looking at the ball and turn my head off ball to understand, pick up who is going to hurt me, right? My next competitive matchup, which will be these 2 guys in white and this guy in black right here. I can't see the number, right? And what happens is, run it a little bit, Quinn. What happens is when the pass is made or thrown, you'll see our official at trail, he just follows the ball, right? So if we just have to get into a better habit of when you're off ball, right? You have to pick up the 2 players, the 3 players, whatever the next competitive matchup, or the 2 or 3 players that can hurt you. In this play, the only 2 or 3 that can hurt you are this black screener and these 2 guys in white. Okay. And again, remember what I said. I'm not saying lead has to fire from where he is, but Lee doesn't have anything going on. Doesn't have anything going on. So look where Lead is. Lead has perfect, a absolute perfect view of this screen right here. Now, again, I don't necessarily know if it is a legal screen, right? This is one of those, this is a 50-50 gray area. To me, it doesn't look like Black does anything wrong, right? He's just there and White kind of rolls through him, and then you see White pull him down. So regardless of whether you go illegal screen, you don't think he got there in time, or if you want to say White pulled him down, we have to have a whistle, because now what happens is we have no whistle, and we know how these kids get. We know how kids get, right? No whistle. Now we have anything on the other end. He feels a certain way because he didn't call a foul. Now we're looking for all this other extra chucks, bumps, elbows, and everything. So if we can get our eyes and be a little bit more disciplined when we're off ball and get to those 2 or 3 people that can hurt us, get to that next competitive matchup, we'll put ourselves in a much better position to officiate this play correctly.
Good. Next one, Quinn, tell us what a blocking foul is by rule. Once you get to the clip, you got a lot going on, Quinn. I give you a lot of responsibility.
It's all good. So in this play, we'll just remind ourselves that a blocking foul is illegal personal contact which impedes the progress of the opponent with or without the ball. So in that context, we'll let me back it up here. I'll just play it through once, then Ernest can talk us through this particular play. Or I'll take.
He's got it.
Okay. Ernest, you want to talk us through this? This is the baseline.
Oh, the baseline drive? Yeah. Okay. So what I want us to understand here is, right, it's early in the game. Okay. Remember, we've been talking, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 clips. We talk obvious fouls versus 50-50 gray area plays. All right. So we got a dribble drive right to the basket, and you see Black drive. White is out of position. He's beat. The only way he can make a play is if he does exactly what he does, which uses his hip, illegal contact, hip checks, and out of bounds. All right. Again, this isn't one of those where you say, well, he made the pass, and White may have gone in for, Blue may have gone in for an easy shot. We need to have a whistle on this play, which I think the league does a very good job, right? Is it a foul? Yes. Okay. Because one, White is beat. Now, the thing we want to think about here is if we're thinking the game, we know that foul puts the second foul early in the first quarter on their big. But think about it. That's not on us to be the judge and the jury. He committed the act. So all we're taught to do is put air in the whistles on obvious foul. In any level of basketball, this is an obvious foul. Don't overthink it. Don't say, well, if I put it on him, right, and I put a foul on him, it's going to be his second foul this early. That's one of their better bigs. I didn't tell him to play bad defense. So we're not rewarding bad defense in my head, right? So we're not rewarding bad defense. If you look at his body language, watch what he does. What do guys do when they know they foul? Either hands up, I didn't do it, right? Or put my hands behind my side, right? He knows he's caught, right? You'll get more flack for not blowing a whistle here than you will for blowing a whistle here. So I think this is a good job by the league to make sure we get this obvious foul.
Very good. Next clip, Quinn, you're going to talk about this screen. Let me just mention that we've talked about different aspects of the screening rules, screening a stationary opponent, screening from behind, blah, blah, blah. Just remember, when you're screening a moving opponent, the screener must allow the opponent time and distance to avoid contact. And as Greg has said, and Ernest has said, and Quinn has said, the speed of the player to be screened determines where the screener may take his or her stationary position. The position will vary and may be 1 to 2 normal steps or strides from the opponent, again, depending on speed. So, Quinn, in the context of that recitation, why don't you talk us through this particular screen?
Sure. So we've seen a play where we're definite this is a foul. This one we don't have the greatest angle. And I think we could probably go either way here, and we'll talk through it in a second. The key is though to identify like what are the elements I need of this play I need to be prepared to rule on, and when and if a coach asks me about it, I've got to be prepared to communicate using rulebook terminology to him why either this is or is not an illegal screen. So again, we saw this before. We're gonna have a player here, can't quite see his number, is he's coming out to set up for a 3-point shot, right? So he's the option over here if two wants to pass the ball. If I'm in the trail, right, I've got to be prepared for that, and we've got to be looking for the matchup of who's going to come out and defend this guy, right? So in this case, right, that next closest defender is right here, right? And so there's going to be a screen here. Okay. Now, in terms of the rules we just went over, so we have a screen on a moving opponent. They've got to the screener has to allow time and distance. Um, he sees him, he gives him at least a step, maybe actually two. And I think in this case, the player in blue here, maybe blue one, it's hard to tell. The player in blue actually sort of lets up. I think he maybe even realizes that screen or no screen, there's no way he's going to get to the shooter here, and he might be better off to actually turn back and prepare for a rebound. Um, so to me, this is a good no call. But again, I have to be able to answer a question from a coach who says, "Hey, wasn't that an illegal screen, down there?" Well, coach, I'm not really seeing it as an illegal screen. I don't see that the white player, whatever his number is, gave him a step. There was, minimal, if any, contact or incidental contact, in the torso, and your player actually by that point had really let up, and wasn't even running out anymore. So, to me, that's not a foul. Whatever it is, you've got to be prepared to talk through that. You can't just say, well, I guess you can say no. You can say something smart like, well, obviously not a foul. I didn't blow my whistle, right? And that'll be fine, And you're going to have to deal with the coach. We're at 5:03 in the first. That's not how I'd want to kick off my interactions with a coach. But you do you.
All right, Greg, talk about how this play is refereed, is officiated.
Sure. It again, it goes back to positioning and where we're starting from, right? If we roll it back to when we were actually moving up the floor, obviously love that Leeds able to get to the baseline prior to the. I don't even think the ball's in the front court yet. Yeah, he's basically at the baseline. The ball's not even in the front court. So we're good if you just like stop in between the S and the T or stop in the T and let the play develop. If the ball had been below free throw line extended on the opposite side, right? Or towards the bottom of the screen, I could understand the lead wanting to get the close down. But you have the ball getting passed back and forth from the top of the key to maybe the elbow, top of the key, maybe to the elbow. We're doing a lot of moving here. And so if we were to get to where the S and the T is and just sit there and referee from where you are, we would be able to like have the play register in our head about what's going to happen. And so if we stop at the S and the T, so let's imagine he's there, and we'll let the play run a little bit. Yep, we let the play run a little bit. Two is gonna dive hard. So one of two things is gonna happen. It's gonna be a block charge play, or he's gonna kick it out to the corner or to the elbow, to the wing, excuse me. So now we see that he's not going to keep driving. He stops. Now my eyes, I have to know I have to get to either the screener or the next defender, which is going to be what happens, the screener here. If I were the S and the T is, all I would have to do is just move my head and referee the screener, and I have all the information that I need. And so if you do call an illegal screen, you have all the information you need. If you don't call an illegal screen, you have all the information you need. But if we're going to referee from the R and the E and backing up and then turn our head late and not know what we're looking at, we don't have all the puzzle pieces. So we're just going to be like, hey, I hope nothing happens here. We got lucky here. Nothing really happened. Didn't happen. Screen didn't blow up or anything. They got a shot off. Cool. But let's say, White delivers a blow above the head or black decides to, hit him in the chest and try to run through, I don't know if we're going to have all the information here because we're refereeing while we're moving. You got to the baseline before the ball got to the front court. That's half the battle. And so once we do that, we don't have to keep moving all the time. And so how we referee this play, Chuck, if we're where he is currently, I am exactly where I need to be to just turn my head and move my eyes to the screener, and I have him from start to finish.
Yeah, that's very good. And I will say, if anybody watching this wants to send me an email and say, hey, I disagree with Quinn, I think that's an illegal screen. I will tell you that it's a pretty good panel here, and the panel is pretty ambivalent about whether that screen was illegal or not. But it's a screen that I think that, during the first time out of this game, if I was refereeing that play, I would probably come to my partners and say, hey, did anybody have a good look at that screen that I passed on? We probably need to I thought it was kind of marginal. I didn't feel it was, I didn't feel like I could pull the trigger on that one, but it looks like we're gonna need to referee screens tonight. Rather than talk about who's ever sitting up in the third row of the stands, we probably need to be talking about the screening action that it looks like we're gonna be refereeing in this game tonight. All right, Quinn, if we go to the next clip.
Chuck, if I may, you don't have to go back to the clip either. If I could just add one more thing to what you said about this last
Please
clip.
do.
Us as referees, we have to be able to judge plays that fit the game. And so to Chuck's point, when we were in rehearsal, we're talking about this specific screen. You want to call an illegal screen? Go for it. Probably going to be right. You don't want to call an illegal screen here? Don't. You're also probably going to be right because you have to understand how plays kind of feel and develop in a game. And so does that feel like, obviously we're not in the game and we're just looking at a clip, but does that foul feel like it fits the game? If it doesn't, let it go. If it's something we need, go get it.
Very good. All right, Quinn, I think we're still talking about screening stationary opponents from behind.
Yep. So again, screens outside the visual field. The screener must allow the opponent one normal step backwards without contact. And I think this is a really good play that illustrates that it just says one normal step backward. It doesn't have to be a whole lot of space necessarily, right? So, Ernest, you want to talk us through this? I think this is the one where Ernest is going to give our trail official some love too.
It is.
Yeah, for
It
sure.
is.
Yeah, so you just got a normal play up the basket. I mean, up in the front court. Trail can see through, right? Now, Trail is on the primary matchup, not an engaged matchup, right? And you see White, the big for White, come behind and getting ready to set a screen. So keep running it. Just dribble drive to the basket, turnover, right? Now, the reason I'm gonna give Trail some love is a lot of times what we like to do is when that ball is going to the basket, right? Primary matchup, and that ball is going to the basket, what we'll do is we'll just stay, right? We won't be in any help. We'll just stay where we are, or we'll back out in anticipation the shot is going up. It's gonna be a long rebound, so we gotta hurry up and get back. So the reason I'm giving Trail some love is because what I really like is to see how engaged he is with the matchup. He continues to take not one, but maybe two or three steps down, which shows me he's engaged with the play. And that's what we want to see from our trail. We don't want to be hovering. We don't want to be leaking. We want to get in the habit of taking steps down, staying engaged with the play. Yeah, he takes like 3 or 4 steps. Really, really good job. Now, the only thing, perhaps, I would love to know if he saw that screen coming. Right? We talked about this earlier too when we was going through some of these clips. Not sure if he saw that screen. Maybe it surprised him. Um, but what I will say is, live watching the first time, I didn't think that was an illegal screen. If you call it, okay, but you have to understand the consequence of your whistle. Let's say the play we had, prior clip, was in the same game. I don't think it was. But let's say we called that one an illegal screen, right? So let's say that 50-50 on that end was an illegal screen. We call it illegal screen. So on something like this, maybe not similar, but you can argue and justify that he didn't get there in time, didn't allow the defender a step. Then I would say, in order to be consistent, then I would, if I'm on this crew, I would hope if I call that first one, my partner if I'm not trail, my partner would say, boo boo, similar play, we're going illegal the other way, right? Again, I personally don't think it's an illegal screen. I think it's good. I don't know if he got there enough, but I'm okay with depending on what we have called, right, to be consistent to match these 50-50 gray area plays. This is where consistency is a huge, huge key for our credibility.
And Ernest, if you don't mind, let me ask you a question, right? If when we call plays, especially screening plays like this, we have to be able to replicate or stay consistent throughout the game. That's what coaches want. They want us to be consistent. If we're going to be consistently bad, at least we're consistent. Now, let me ask you this. You call that, can we truthfully, consistently call this kind of screen the whole game? Probably not.
No, probably not.
Probably not.
So I'm glad you brought that up because we do get in our own head sometimes, Greg, and I'm sure you've heard a version of this, but I would say if I know, but let's say I completely like ruined the call on the other end, right? I'm not gonna come back on this end and be like, I got a chance to get another bad call. Like that's not what we want to do. Like we want to be right.
No.
So we don't want to match. I'll be politically correct. We don't want to match boo boo with boo boo. Is that good, Chuck? I didn't cuss. You
Yeah,
proud
that's
of me?
good. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
Very,
But
yeah,
y'all
I'm
get what
very
I'm saying,
proud of
right?
you.
It-
And
so if
you
we
cleaned up during rehearsal.
so my point is, right, to Greg's point, right? If we have one on the other end that we just completely, we know brain fart, we missed it. We don't want to go back on this end to say, you know what, man, I know I screwed that one up. It's time for me to get back. That is not how we get credibility. Like if we
Not
know in our
yeah.
heart of hearts that we messed it up, I'm glad you brought it. It was a good. I'm glad you brought it up, Greg, because we've been in games where that happened. You'd be like, oh my god, like I just told you it was bad. Like don't match me. Like I just told you that.
Yeah.
So yes,
Now
it's
we're
a good
both in
point
the
though.
soup.
Yes, like I don't want us both to be on phone calls on the ride home. It's terrible.
I think the other thing that sort of goes on in this play too, and just to be aware of, like, and to Greg's point of it being hard to consistently call something like this, you have the screener who's coming up to get set, but the defender's already moving backwards. So you've got to try and judge whether at the point that the screener comes set, the guy who's already moving back still has a step. Like, unless it's just obvious that he comes up into him, I think you're better off to just let this one go, right? Because yeah, maybe you'd be right on this one, but like I don't know, like right here, is that a step? I mean, it looks like the defensive player still has a, or the defensive player still has a step. Like, and you're getting these like frame by frame sort of things. Like, let these
Yeah.
be ones that are obvious ones. Okay, he
Yeah.
comes all the way up into him. Take that one. This one, I think this is an easier
Hey,
just to let it ride.
and Quinn, I really hope this makes sense to those on the call. You don't want to be too good at calling these kind of plays. And what I mean by that is if you go frame by frame and you're like, okay, I got this play right because he didn't give him 3/4 of an inch of a step, and that's not what we want to do. Okay.
Yeah.
Or on a travel play, oh, he dragged his foot
Right.
and half an inch. That's not what we want to do. Like Quinn said, is this an obvious illegal screen? No, it's not.
No.
It's not. This is a legal screen.
Very good. Now show us one that's obvious, Greg.
Oh, we got more obviously illegal screens later in this one too, but this is
Yeah.
also an obvious foul.
So this is not a screen that Greg's going to be talking about, but this is a play. This just happened to be a clip that clip that I found that illustrates something that is in our game. And coaches pretend like they don't understand this. Players pretend like they don't understand this, but Greg understands it and he's going to explain it. Go ahead, Greg.
So we need to understand that until we get this kind of play out of our game, until we clean this up, coaches teach this. They're not just in practice saying, oh, box them out and they just ignore it. They're teaching players to do this until we start calling these fouls. And so we have a short rebound, doesn't go very far. We have two players who are in a way fighting for position. It's not like crazy fighting, but they're fighting for position, right? They're trying to see how the ball is going to come off the rim to get to the ball. And the point that I want to make here is you have a defender who's clearly behind a player. They're not side by side trying to box each other out, but you have one player who's behind another player. As soon as that offensive player, or any player really, goes airborne, the other player cannot continue to basically take their landing space away. You can't box a player's legs out from underneath them. That's essentially what happens here. And so is White gonna get the ball? Probably not. You have 4 black jerseys. You got one who's trying to get there. The defender who falls to the ground is not really going to get to the ball, but that's not the point. The point is this is illegal contact that we have to get. If we don't get this, one, players get hurt on these kind of plays all the time. Granted, she doesn't really get hurt here, but what I can tell you is she probably got her feelings hurt because you didn't call it. Now, what is she going to do on the other end? Okay, you don't call this foul, and then you call a foul right after that. She's like, okay, cool. If you're not going to take care of it, I'm going to take care of it. And then what's going to happen is you're going to have the same matchup where Black is now going to jump up and White's going to take her legs out. So you have forearm in the White player's back. Player goes airborne, continues to move forward, takes her legs out, doesn't allow her to land. This is a foul. It's a foul on Black.
And that's very good. And just as a point of clarification, the foul that was called on this play was not the foul by Black. It was a foul called on to White for knocking herself to the ground. Okay, if we can go on, I think we've got some more meaty plays to look at. So let's go to the next clip, guys. Good. That was a good presentation, Greg. Thank you. Ernest, I think we're going to start off on this clip talking about the action between 2 White and 30. I don't know what we're 2 White and 35 Gold, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Two White and then the screen by 35 White, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Okay.
Correct. It was 3 different actions on this play,
Yeah.
if I'm not
So
mistaken.
you take the first 2, Ernest.
So, all right. Oh, Chuck, you want me to talk position
Yeah.
first, or you want me to?
You talk about whatever you
So,
want to talk about, Ernest. You've already proven you know what you're talking about.
all right. So
He's
first,
got notes for it all.
hey, listen, Chuck put a lot of pressure on me. G, I had to make sure I represented well. So, but no. So if you think about this play, so let's back it up a half a second, Quinn. Sorry, I was running my mouth. So if we take it back, all right. So we have, to me, not a competitive matchup. You get that 32. You know, our kids that want to stick their arm out to get your attention. A 5-second call. All right. So let's keep going. All right. So slot comes up and lead is looking. So lead's like, I guess I need to get over there. All right. So this is where I think we get ourselves into trouble, or we got ourselves into trouble on this play, just from a coverage standpoint. Go ahead and run it, cool. All right. So now we got some action coming. I think 35 is about to set a screen. Yep. So you got 35 setting the screen, right? He does the same thing we've been seeing. Okay. By rule, is there an illegal screen? Maybe. Now watch that. All right. So this is the second. That's the second potential illegal screen. We had 1 against 2, and this is the third one. 35 Gold just runs him over, and we have nothing. All right. Now we're gonna take it back a second, and Quinn, I want you to pause it so we can see why we don't have anything. So keep running. Go towards the end where 35 runs him over.
Okay.
All right. You got 35 White about to hit him. Okay, and now watch this. Pause. So you see, I want you to look at where the trail is and look at where his eyes are. Look at where Slot is. Look at where his eyes are. So we got 2 officials on a matchup, not really an engaged matchup, not too much pressure. And we have all this action on the opposite elbow, and nobody's watching. Go ahead and run it through.
Okay, give me 1 second. There we go.
Yeah. We gotta do better with finding our engaged matchups. I mean, the kids tell themselves, 9 out of 10, when a kid throw his hands up, he did something he wasn't supposed to do, right? And we got the trail again. To me, the root cause of the coverage lapse, us missing, I mean, you could pick one of these three fouls, right? The slot, when he first made that initial step up, instead of him just taking one, he could continue to count. He took 2, 3, 4, and I believe the lead was thinking, I need to get over there, right? I got players on that side, I need to get over there. So now our crew dynamics just in this one sequence, because we got this one first, maybe. 2 is trying to flop a little bit. Now Trail slides down in the slot comes up. All right, we got 35. Slot looks like he's in good position. Okay, he decides whether he wants to call it or not. And now we got 4 sets of eyes on the ball. We miss a run over. So if we don't call anything else, the most obvious illegal act in that whole sequence was 35 running through white. And again, that's what we got to make sure we're dealing with our eyes. Like ball watching can get it in trouble, right? So what if hypothetical 2 is like, damn, ref, you ain't see that? So 2 goes and does some illegal stuff, and now we hit 2 with a illegal now, right? It's early enough to where we want to keep the coaches as cool, calm, and collected as they can be. We don't want to add stuff. And I know it was too many different instances of illegal acts on this sequence where we should have had a whistle. The first one, maybe not. 2 kind of sort of embellished a little bit, right? When 35 sets the screen, he does the shoulder lean over. He's not within his frame, and he's not set. And then 35 goal, I'm telling you, in my head, we talked about this, fellas. In my head, I think 35 goal was sick of 2. And 35 said, well, listen, I got something, they ain't going to call it. And he just completely runs him over.
No doubt. No doubt. Something that we discussed earlier, Ernest, the lead, and you alluded to it early on in this presentation, the lead felt compelled by the action of the slot official when he first comes out to cover. We ended up out, by the way, with a foul on 32 goal when it was all said and done, which was his third foul of the game. So when the slot decides to come out, he comes out to referee this play. He didn't have to come out the way he came out. Do we agree with that, Ernest?
Correct.
Okay. I mean, he could have refereed that like you said, that's not some intense matchup here. 32 is just waving at him at this point. And the slot maybe could take a step towards him right there and stop if he felt like that improved him. But he didn't have to go out there to referee that play at that point. But even though
Agreed.
he did,
He take one
we
step.
still don't have to have a rotation on this play, do we?
I don't think so, because I'm waiting on the ball to settle. I don't have a defensive pressure, right? The ball, they're not even running anything. And you see this action on the opposite side. The guy, number 10, the white in the corner, he's just not doing anything. So if all I got is just one, I just take a half a step or one step, make sure I can see through the ball and the defender, count. And then once he make the pass now, but I think someone else brought this up earlier. I think it was Quinn when we were talking about this clip earlier. It looks like the trail is almost saying, hey, it's you. So maybe that triggered the slot to say, all right, let me go and get up here and get in better position. Right where Quinn has paused at. That's what it looks like. So maybe that's what happened. And now you have the rotation. And I think that just threw everything off.
Right.
We can't leave action though there's nothing going on over here. And somebody told me a long time, when you see players running opposite directions, like across each other, like's about to happen right here at the free throw line, like the biggest action area right now is right here at the free throw line. And so lead has got to hold here, and recognizing that there's a lot of players also outside the 3-point arc has got to stop and help with this first 2 and whatever this other player's number, or they're going to run right past each other. And that's where we have the first, not really a screen. And again, I'm not saying that's a foul. I think that's probably I mean, if we look just knew, if not knowing the future, if we just looked at this, we'd probably go next time down the floor. I probably want to say something to two, right? If this is the first thing I've seen, right?
It
Like,
won't do any good, but you
well,
can go ahead and say something to it.
but I don't know the future at this point, right? I've seen the whole game,
Right.
so I know. But you know, but we can't be we're rotating right as these guys are crossing, and there's there's screening action potentially at the free throw line here. So like even if we were going to rotate, we got to hold referee that, let that clear, and then if we needed to rotate, we could rotate. But we can't leave a play just because like, oh, well, the ball's gone over here, I'm going to rotate now. There's nothing to referee over there.
Yeah, if I may have my 2 cents here,
Yeah.
this is something that helps me, and I'm still trying to get better at understanding when to rotate. But ask yourself, does your partner need help? So if you're a lead here, if you're breaking down this play and you see lead rotating, ask yourself, does my partner need help over there? No, he doesn't. So why do I need to go?
Right.
So obviously there are certain cues. Ball gets below free throw line, it settles on the other side. Go. Post play on that side. Go. Late in the game situation, 10 seconds left. Guard has the ball in the top corner. Sure, you want to go. So we have 2 referees on that side. But in the context of the play that we're looking at here, I don't think there was any situation where I'm like, I have to get over there because my partner needs my help. And for that reason, I think once we get over there, it kind of throws, something just feels a little off with the coverage. Then you end up having to come back. So, when you come back, now if you were to pause it here, Quinn,
Sorry.
you have 8 players on the other side. And so it's like, what happens if there are more screens on that play? My partner on that side is the one that needs help. So just think to yourself, give it a try. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't. But, does my partner need my help over there? Do I need to go? Oh, I do? Go and rotate.
Excellent point. The last thing I want to say about this particular play, Quinn, if we can run it back to where we started with number 2 doing his thing, and just stop it at the point of right there. Okay, so that's illegal. Now watch the assistant coach. That is what he's reacting to. I can tell you that. I know that for a fact. There's no question in my mind. I know that. But 2, I have no problem with a no call on that play because even though it's illegal by 2, the only person put at a disadvantage on that play was number 2. He put himself to a disadvantage. So I'm okay with a no call, and I'm okay with talking to 2, as Ernest said, or whoever said it, as we're coming down the floor. Hopefully, maybe number 2 will get the message, because number 2 is not going to stop doing this. If we don't referee him. So now we have a screen by 35, and I want you to watch the reaction by the bench. Okay, the same thing. But now we have 2 of them. Okay, they're talking about the screen. That's what they're talking about. Do I know that? I absolutely know that. Now we have the blow up, the screen blow up. If we had called the foul, which nobody saw, well, as far as I know, nobody saw it in the crew. If we have a foul on that play against Gold, I can promise you that 1 or more assistant coaches are coming off the bench on that play over that call. I can promise you. We cannot allow that to happen. I'm not picking on that particular team or those particular coaches. I'm making a general statement going into this new season. I do not want. I've never been the person to say, hey, I'm not listening to assistant coaches. I'll listen to anybody within reason. But we're not going to allow assistant coaches to abuse us. And we happen to know that on this particular bench, all the assistant coaches end up doing is getting you see the head coach is kind of halfway asleep right now in this play. No offense to Coach Johnson, but he's not, he's relaxed, he's holding his leg, he's good. They're going to get him cranked up. So do not allow the assistant coach. And now we've fallen backwards because they called a foul, ended up calling a foul. They could have called 2 other fouls, they ended up calling a foul on one of what they consider to be their key players. Okay. And they do get cranked up over that. Now let's look at this play. Ernest, this was one of my favorite plays.
Yeah, okay, Jack.
I'm gonna take this
So
in slow-mo right off the jump here, Ernest, because
okay.
all right, just because this happens real quick off this clip. the first
Yeah,
one.
I got you. So we're focusing on just how all right. So slot, right? You see this action coming off the screen. Okay. Again, by rule, is it a foul? He impeded his progress. Absolutely, right? We see this all the time on tough inbounds and everything like this. So we're not arguing whether you hit the whistle for a foul or not. That's not the reason we want to. I want to talk about this clip. What I want to talk about is, all right, where are my slot eyes? Okay. So pause it right there. So the coach reacts because he sees the tug. Okay. He wants a foul. Legitimate argument, no problem. Okay. What I need us to do during live ball, I need us to be making sure we are focused in our primary and not engaged with any coach during live ball. And this is why, because coach is still talking. Coach is still talking. We got action going. I don't know if y'all saw two put his hand up on goal two. He's doing his thing again. And this is a slot play. Slot talked to the head coach for 7 seconds.
2 business days.
33, 32, 31, 30, 29, 28. And we got a crash. And look who's involved, number two. And so the point for me, what I'm focusing on this clip is I need us to always be laser focused. Coaches are going to do what they do. But during live ball, it's really say, you can hit your whistle, BB, hey, whatever you want to do. I mean, maybe not hit your whistle because the ball is in play, but coach, I can't talk right now. I'm focused. Or when the next time here's a dead ball, you got to get to him. Hey, coach, listen, I'm working hard for you. Whatever verbiage you want to use, I'm working hard for you. But I can't do my job if during live ball you're in my ear. I got a job to do. I'm going to work hard for you, but you can't, whatever verbiage you want to use, right? But we miss, because I think the reason we didn't have a foul here is because he didn't see it. He didn't turn his head until after the coach comes down. And then I think internally, when I see the slot point down to the corner as though he was watching that area, I'm hoping he's not telling coach I'm looking this way because again, we talked it probably a couple clips ago. We don't want to referee in a space, right? We want to make sure we are laser focused on our primary coverage area. Slot had an opportunity to get that, all right. But now he's engaged with the coach. He's engaged with the coach, and now we got 2 and 32, right? We applaud Trail for picking it up late, right? Because it is a bang bang. And again, remember, these screening plays are always 2 sets of eyes, 2 sets of officials refereeing these plays. So, but that's slot play all day, every day. You agree, Greg?
100%. You cannot BS your way out of this one. You are not looking where you were supposed to look because, in my opinion, again, this is a freedom of movement play that we've talked about earlier. He's got it's a wrap. He's got his arm wrapped around the offensive player's waist. The ball is trying to get to the guard. He's their floor general, so that's where they're trying to get the ball to, and he can't. So you're slowing the offensive player down, and it's messing up the timing of their play that they're trying to run. And if you're looking there and you just don't think it's a foul, okay, fine. That conversation with the coach is going to be brief. And by him talking this long and pointing to where, again, we're just assuming like, no, I'm in the corner. That's where I'm refereeing. That's not where you should be refereeing. That's why the conversation goes so long, is because you're trying to talk your way into like telling yourself you did what you did was right when it's not. And so not only do we miss one play, we then go to putting all this pressure on Trail to come out of primary and get the second play. But I agree with you, Ernest. I mean, if we're doing what we're supposed to do, one, the whistle's out of his mouth for like 4 seconds, and he's still, even after the coach is addressing like, hey, something just happened in the middle of the paint, his head then goes to the left away from the paint again, a second time. So now he's looking, I'm looking to the left. Coach says, hey, but it happened in the middle of the paint, which is where exactly another thing is going to happen. He turns to the left again. And so we have to be able to get out of the habit of trying to talk to coaches during live ball. I understand that sometimes you can feel uncomfortable and it may seem like you're ignoring the coach. We're just doing our job. It's really hard for me to concentrate when you're talking in my ear and I'm trying to referee. So if a coach wants to come, 1 second, coach, I got you. And then go back to refereeing.
Greg, I'm going to take that even a step further, which is sometimes I think we're in such a hurry to respond to the coach that we would actually be okay if we didn't even respond at all. Half the time, I mean, on this play, okay, he's upset because he feels like there should have been a foul called here. Oh, okay. So he comes down and he says his piece. If you actually look at his body language, by the time we start talking to him, he's actually turned back towards the play because guess
Mhm.
what? He's got to coach again.
We're
I,
still talking.
I'd bet you $100 that if we hadn't responded at all, and I don't know what he said, right? But if he just comes down and goes, "Come on, Quinn, that's a foul. You got to get that." If I don't say a word to him, he probably goes back to coaching. And he goes back to coaching. Maybe then we have a dead ball later, and he comes back and says something to me, and now we're in a dead ball, and we can have a conversation about it, and you know whatever the conversation is. But sometimes we're in such a hurry again to sort of your point to defend what we were doing or try to talk him into like we were right or whatever that like we say something when we don't have to say anything at all. And I say that as somebody who used to be, and Chuck can attest, like really bad about getting myself into, we'll call them situations. That'd be the polite word. Getting myself into situations I didn't need to be in because I felt the need to respond to something that a coach did or said when I would have been much better off to just let the coach say what they needed to say, me keep doing my job, they'll get back to doing their job. Now, if it's repeated, that's a different situation. But in this case, I think we probably, if we don't say anything, the coach probably goes back to coaching. We're refereeing. We're all good.
Yep. And I'll add this one point. Obviously, if anybody else wants to add anything, go for it. But I also want to talk about the play, the second screen that happens. But we don't want to be rude. We don't want to ignore coaches, but we have a job to do. We have to referee. And so I actually did this in a game one time and he appreciated it. If a coach wants to talk to you about a play, like really wants to talk to you, he's going to talk to you about it, whether it be 5 minutes from now, 2 seconds from now, he's going to talk to you about it. But let's say there's a turnover, we go down and we come back out of bounds, whatever. I've gone to a coach, be like, Coach, my bad. I wasn't trying to ignore you. What's up? And then he'll be like, huh? Oh, he got grabbed. My bad. I didn't see it. I'm sorry. And that's the end of that. He just goes back to coaching. I'm not trying to ignore you, coach. I'm just trying to referee. I'm sorry I didn't answer your question. Do you have a question? He's probably going to forget about it. If he really wants to talk to you about it, he's going to talk to you about it. So this situation, again, I know we keep talking about it. Focus on refereeing. Now, let's talk about the actual screen itself. So everybody in the gym sees like gold 32 kind of like run through number 2. Okay, so and this is why I want to, shout out Trail. I don't know if he saw the whole play. Maybe he sees that the slot referee is having a conversation. He's not even talking to the coach. He's having a conversation with the coach. I have to give it my best shot because this play needs a whistle. And what everybody sees 9 times out of 10 is what happens. So go ahead and put a defensive foul on this. But in the context of the rules that we've been talking about with screening, we have number 2 who is smart. He knows what he's doing. 32 also knows what he's doing, right? He's going right towards number 2, and he's going to try to sell a call. Unfortunately, he's the one that gets called with the foul. But this is technically an illegal screen here. And especially if you've already had these kind of plays earlier in the game, you are well within your right to call an illegal screen on number 2. Okay. Number 2 is walking towards the defender. He does not give the defender time or space to stop or change their direction because, again, you have a moving defender, so you have to be able to stop and give him space. This is not what happens here. So even though they both end up on the ground, 32 is a much bigger player. The force of 32 going through number 2, who's just he's a small guard. He didn't do anything wrong. Number 2 is at fault here. This is an illegal screen. But again, even though, we judge this as a defensive foul, I'm just glad we have a whistle. This play needed a whistle. And what everybody sees, and I don't think really you're going to get much pushback from anybody, is 32 with a foul. So, hey, we got a whistle. In the fans' eyes and the coach's eyes, we got to play right. But for the presentation today, when we're talking about the rules, is understanding like, hey, number 2 is the person who makes this whole situation ugly. He created the illegal contact, so he should have been whistled for an illegal screen.
Very good. All right, last clip.
All right, I'll just play this through once and then I'll let you boys have at it.
Hey, Greg, get your elevator screen discussion on. You did it so eloquently earlier. I'm gonna let you
Oh,
start.
yeah, yeah. Okay, listen, guys. We talk about talking basketball and then rule book terminology. Okay, there's a time and place for both. There's a time and place where I can tell you the offensive player is moving into the defensive player space. On a moving defender, he has to stop and give him time to stop and change your direction. I can tell you that. Or I can tell you, guys, it's an elevator screen. The door's got to be closed before the defender gets there. Okay, what makes this illegal? The doors are still closing, which means you got screeners who are still moving. Regardless if the defensive player tries to go through the screen, if that door is not closed, the offense has to own the illegal contact. Okay, because if the doors are closed and the defender decides to run through the doors, you have a defensive foul because the offense player is going to fall. Here, number 2 is still trying to get the door closed. He's still trying to move to his left while the player in gold is trying to go through the doors. He's trying to get to floor number 7. He tries to stick his hand in between the door and the doors are still closing. Okay. Basketball talk. I'm talking to a player. Hey, how is that illegal? Elevator doors got to be closed, guys. Go to a coach. How's that illegal? Offensive player has to give him time or distance to stop and change your direction. He didn't do that. It's illegal.
Greg, just let me make one clarification. I know we are familiar with this terminology of elevator screens, but just in case there's somebody watching this who this is your first time seeing one of these plays, elevator screen, have 2 screeners. The offensive player runs through, and then the 2 screeners try to close the doors, right? So like an elevator, right? Elevator doors try to close it to keep the defender out. To Greg's point, basketball terminology. If you're not, if you didn't maybe play the game, at a higher level and you don't know some of this stuff, go to YouTube and just you can look up all sorts of offensive sets, different types of screening plays, different types of things. Earlier this year, I mean, I just got lucky. I had actually been watching something on drag screens, and I had a game, and the coach said like, "Oh, it was an illegal screen," and I had recognized that they just said had just been a drag screen. I said, "You talking about on the drag screen?" And the coach was like, "Yeah, on that." And it came back 2 players later, and he was sort of like, "Did you know that play? Like what?" 'Cause he was like, "Oh, you're like paying attention to what's going on here." Um, and so using that terminology can be really helpful. But again, just elevator screen, you have these 2 screeners here. The number 4 is going to run through, and then they're going to try and close the doors here to keep number 2 from getting through.
That's
Sorry,
great. Ernest,
go
before we
ahead.
close the doors, you want to talk about the coverage on this play a little bit and how it was
Yeah.
refereed?
So I talk some positioning, right? So again, we want to look at where my trail is when the play is happening. All right. So again, not an engaged defensive matchup. Okay, a lot of space. So running a little bit. I would like. I see the lead is pitching the paint, pretty closed down. That's fine because the ball's in the middle of the floor. All right. So I would like to see the lead get a step wider, right? Because again, there's nothing going on in the paint. So he should be focused on what I talked about earlier, players that can hurt you, whatever the competitive matchup is in your area. Okay. So if he takes a step and a half right by his H, he's in perfect position. All right. Slot, when this screening action happens, he's stacked. He got a lot of players in front of him, so I wouldn't expect Slot to have anything. If he had a whistle and Trill didn't have one, he'd be guessing. I would commend him for having a whistle, like Greg said, because it was too much illegal action, but he'd just be guessing. So let's go back. Let's talk about the Trail's position, all right? So if we go back just a hair, so where he is, all right? Not an engaged matchup, which is fine. Let's get the position. So let's go. We should be 28 foot. All right. Now, me personally, and I think Greg can agree, we like to be more sideline oriented because if you look at everything that's going on over here, 32 never he doesn't even do his I'm a fake pressure and put my hand up and get the 5 count, right? This is not engaged matchup. So if I don't have anything going on, man, I'm gonna get to the sideline because a lot of times we think when we step onto the floor, we get a better angle, but there's no better angle he get by being this close to the ball and the action versus being sideline oriented because you want to have big picture mentality, especially when you're at the trail. So if I know my defender is not engaged in this matchup, I'm not worried about if I miss a pivot foot or a travel oh, okay. We want to get to where all the action is, right? We need to have a whistle. If Trail, he continues to make an arc on the floor, right? If he's already here, and then he can see everything here because there's nothing going on with that matchup on the ball, right? Again, we referee the defense. If the defense not doing anything, and don't even need to be refereed here when I can understand I have what's that? 5 players doing all the screening action. So make sure we get our eyes to players that can hurt us. We get our eyes to our competitive matchup, right? So we are in position to referee the play. The reason we miss plays is because we're out of position. He continues to walk himself high, and we need to be more silent oriented to make sure we're in awesome position to see all this action that's going on down here.
Ernest, if I may add, we've watched 3 clips now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plays that involved one player, number 2. And this is the last clip that we have, and it's in the 4th quarter. So I mean, maybe more stuff happened. I don't know. But I think this is a really good time to bring up. You have to identify players that I don't want to call them problem players. But if you have a player that's involved in a lot of plays, they're on the floor a lot, there's a lot of crashes, offensive fouls, defensive fouls, I want to know where they are. And this is a perfect example where you have a very non-competitive matchup at the top of the key. As Trail, I'm going to go off ball, and I'm like, where's number 2? There's a cluster of players. I can almost guarantee number 2 is going to be in there. So identify my players, know my personnel, and get to off ball. If my judge has got to turn my head, okay, it was nothing going on over here and it was going on over there, guys. So to Quinn's point, TikTok, YouTube, whatever you want, different types of screens, different types of plays, and just get used to seeing like, okay, we got 2 players here. We have an offensive player who runs in between those 2 players. More often than not, those players are going to try to do this instead of screen. If Lead doesn't get this play, Trail, if he's standing where he's supposed to be, so like around the R and the I and Furies and sideline oriented, oh my God, it opens right up to him. Or at least it closes right up to him for the screen, but it opens right up to him. He has full license to come get this play as well. But again, it goes back to understanding like, okay, if I have players, it's gold number 32. It's whoever's guarding the gold player who's guarding number 3, so 23 gold, and number 2 white. Those 3 clips that we just showed, those are the 3 players that have been involved. And so I want to know where they are at all times.
Yeah.
Very good. Good, quick question for Rob Livengood. Team A has committed 5 team fouls in the 2nd quarter when A2 is called for an illegal screen during the throw-in by A1. How does play resume after the foul is reported? That's the question for Rob Livengood. Greg, Ernest, Quinn, outstanding presentations by all 3 of you. I really appreciate it. But unless somebody's got something they want to close with, I think we're done.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Good?
Thanks, Chuck, for sure.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, let's shut her down, Quinn.